Clementine from Zepparella. Thanks for watching the Zepparella Learning Channel. This is the second video in my series on how to play Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin. Now, in the first video I went through the album version, the Led Zeppelin 3 version. And now I'm going to talk about what I've learned about playing the song live and how I create a little more sonic space, a little more sonic heaviness. And I've chosen what I play in this song through hours of listening to a lot of what Bonham did live. I've said in the first video that my very favorite version of this song is on How the West Was Won, that compilation. And I love that version because they just take off like a freight train. It's so incredibly powerful. And they are playing it quite a bit faster, 5 to 10 beats per minute faster than the album, than the recorded version. And I tend to stick to that live as well. It's just the way that I hear the song now. I've heard that song so many times, that version so many times. And there are things that Bonham is doing live that he's playing a lot busier. And, you know, he's known as, you know, the thunder of drums, right? So a lot of that has to do with his kick drum. His kick drum is always dancing on the pedal. And it's creating a rumble underneath. John Paul Jones is playing killer stuff on the bass, a lot of little runs all the way through it. And I hear Bonham picking that up and then playing together, kind of rolling through. Now, as I talk about adding ghost notes on the snare drum and ghost notes on the bass drum, the thing to remember primarily is that it has to feel like Immigrant Song. It has to feel like Viking horns. It has to feel settled and rolling, no matter how fast you're playing it. I have to say that there have been times where I knew I was just playing it too fast. It was hard for me to get that settled feeling, even at the tempo that I was playing it, and that's always a big shame. So I've come up with ways that I talked about in the first video about settling down, getting back into that heavy, pulsing feeling, that rolling feeling. So one of the turnarounds that Bonham does in this song goes like this. If this is the main pattern of the song, he'll do a pattern that goes like this. So at tempo, that sounds really exciting. It's like the bass drum and snare drum start to create a conversation together where there's a roll. You're still really hitting that 1 and 3 on the bass drum. You're still really getting those accented snare drum that is leading into those 1 and 3s. But there's a kind of rolling pattern that happens. Here is a video of me playing that at tempo, and I'll show you what I mean. Again, here's that turnaround really slowly. Again. So you can kind of pepper that in. It creates a kind of rumble on the drums, and it goes along with what the bass is doing, a lot of the runs that the bass is doing. Another cool thing that Zepparella picked up from the How the West Was Won version that I love is in the first verse, On the 8th measure, on the 3 and the 4, the whole band kind of hits these accents. And then they do it again in the 12th measure on the 3 and the 4. So the whole band kind of stomps together there, and the guitar does a killer bend. That sounds really awesome. So that looks like this.
We come from the land of the ice and snow, from the midnight sun where the hot springs glow. Soft it feels so green, whisper tales of gold. How we come.
Finally, I want to talk about the hi-hat. In the recorded album version, the hi-hat's pretty steady all the way through, but live, I like to really play with the hi-hat because the hi-hat adds a big amount of space, sonic space in the room when that thing is swishing around. So in this song, I leave it pretty cracked so it really swishes and creates that nice sound underneath it all. And I also have come to start, I realized the other day as I was dissecting the song that I've come to start opening it on the 2 and closing it on the bass drum on the 3, opening it on the 4, closing it on the 1. And not completely, but just a little bit, my foot is just bouncing a little bit, kind of opening and closing, and I find that that really creates a kind of swing to the song. Nothing is very, it's always cracked, even from the very beginning of the 4 beats that hits that I do with Gretchen as she's feeding back and we're getting into the song. That hi-hat is always open, just cracked, so that there's a little bit more space. And by the end of the song, it's probably cracked quite a bit and there's a lot of noise going on because I feel like it should be noisy. And then when I come into the stops, I know that in the album version, what I showed you was to just flam on the snare drum. But I always bring those stops down on the snare drum and the hi-hat instead. And the reason I do that is because my hi-hat has been open and swishy when I am going along playing, and then it closes, it shuts off all of that underlying noise that that white noise they've been hearing underneath, and it makes that stop even more dramatic in the room. It's like it sucks everything in. And so play with your hi-hat as you're going along and see what kind of patterns come up. Sometimes as I'm playing, like the hi-hat starts doing something that I don't not really know what it's doing, but I like it. So just be free with the way that you're playing the hi-hat in this song. And here's an example of it. So this is an example of what I would play coming into the stops with that extra hit on the hi-hat on the 4, and then an extra crash on the 4th measure as well, on the 1 of the 4th measure, and the little turnaround as well that I like to do coming up into that stop. So here we go. So that is Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin on drums. The one thing I want to sum up with is to tell you that with all of this extra stuff that I've been talking about adding, all of the ghost notes, the extra bass drum patterns, the little turnarounds here and there, opening the hi-hat, filling the sonic space with sound, and maybe even playing the song faster than the album version. All of those things are the way that you're going to interpret the song. But just remember, don't sacrifice feel for flash. It's really important that this song feels heavy and settled and like we're going forward and rolling through, and it never loses sight of that falling on that 1 and 3, falling on that bass drum, making sure that it's always right there. And that is the way that you will be able to know that you're getting close to interpreting John Bonham's playing. At the Zepparella Learning Channel, we aim to give a bigger musical lesson in addition to teaching Led Zeppelin songs. And in this second video, the musical lesson I'd like you to take away is filling sonic space. So thank you so much for watching. In the next video, I'm going to be talking about the solo section of the song and how I approached coming up with that.